Here we go. We are live here on Facebook. We are on YouTube. We've had some technical difficulties getting started here, but now we are live. Another Aggie Pridecast. I'm your host, Brian Holloway. My co-host is named Shemaya Tatum. And down there on the screen is my man, Curtis Canty, CC, the man, the myth, the legend. He is our assistant athletics director for compliance. He's the police, so we can't act up tonight, somebody. We might have to behave ourselves a little bit.
Tone down.
Gotta tone it down a little bit. The man is listening, so we gotta tone it down a little bit.
How you doing, Curtis? If anything, I'm a local cop and not a Fed, so you got some leeway here.
Good stuff. Welcome back. We got a big time show for you today. Big news in North Carolina with the new law passing has a big time effect on athletics, especially here at North Carolina A&T and across the state. We got head coach Monte Ross coming in to join us. He's going to kind of break down the season for us. North Carolina A&T's men's basketball season ended at the CAA tournament last week against William & Mary. And so he's going to kind of break some things down for us. Man, it was a very interesting men's basketball season, to say the least. A lot of storylines with that basketball team. And then we're going to bring in the greatest of them all. Sorry about that, Curtis. It's going to be Shamika Pyfrom, our chief fundraiser here at North Carolina A&T Athletics. And she's going to kind of discuss the new ticketing policy here at North Carolina A&T, discuss the AAF and all the fun things that are going on there. So action-packed show for you tonight. So let's have a little fun with Curtis. Curtis, here's the main question I need to know. The NCAA brackets are on their way. How much money can I put down on my brackets, man? That's all I need to know. It's how much money I can put down on my winning bracket. Go ahead and take it away, man. Can I put down some money so I can win my pool? That's all I need to know.
So I'll give you two answers for that. The first one is from a legislative standpoint. As a staff member, you can't put any. But that being said, if you put enough down that you don't have to ever worry about working in the college athletics again from all of your winnings, then there you go.
There you go.
That would
that's
be the
what
way
I need.
Yeah.
I need that's if you get the perfect bracket, then I can just quit.
Perfect bracket with enough winnings to where, once again, that you never have to worry about working again anywhere, whether it be college athletics or anywhere else. That'd probably be the best way to go.
I'll need to show cause if I have to go back to athletics again. So that would be the ticket. But let's jump into this just a little bit. So if you watch sports, then you know that betting is coming to North Carolina because that commercial has run 800 million times with Gronk and Kenny Smith and all those guys telling you that I think it's FanDuel or DraftKings or one of those that is coming to North Carolina. And so basically it's a fancy way to say, gambling is coming to North Carolina, online gambling, all of those kind of things are coming to North Carolina. And of course, our school is located in Greensboro, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So what impact, Curtis, does that have on athletics and specifically North Carolina A&T State University?
It's going to have a tremendous impact on both of those populations that you mentioned, specifically within the state of North Carolina. This was, and I think we can all recognize this, but it was a huge revenue grab for the state of North Carolina, and the North Carolina Lottery Commission and the educational benefits that they will raise as of the new participants in sports wagering as it relates to that, and specifically to North Carolina A&T. We're not alone. I mean, all the 16 member institutions within the UNC system and all the private institutions as well are going to be affected by that. As the state law was written, it opened it up for everything, just about. So Olympic sports, NASCAR, professional sports, college, pretty much everything, with the exception of true amateur sports. So high school, AAU, Little League, stuff like that is going to be off the books. But pretty much everything else is going to be wide open and available for anyone that's 21 years or older and residing in the state of North Carolina that wants to set up one of those accounts.
And the gambling is big time money. My sons they get on those DraftKings things and they try to pick the final score and all those kind of things. So it's really become big since the Supreme Court ruling, those type of things. And you mentioned it a little bit. We've joked a little bit about it, but let's hit this first from a staffing standpoint. Certainly, full-time staff should kind of stay away, but we contract a lot of different people, PA announcers, broadcasters, all kinds of part-time people that we bring into the fold. How far-reaching is the legislation for the NCAA in terms of who can and who cannot deal in these gambling sites?
Fantastic question. And the way the NCAA legislation spells that out is anyone with directly involved in athletics or basically adjacent to athletics. So those populations, so those individuals that you mentioned. So anyone who's considered like a part-time employee that has athletics responsibilities, even so much as an FAR, faculty athletic rep, who resides outside of athletics as a whole, but because they have athletics reporting and operational responsibilities, they too are affected by that NCAA legislation and prohibited from participating in that. Also includes board of directors, chancellors, and every unit that you can think of within athletics. So even if it's not tied to a specific sport, if you work in facilities, if you work in facilities, media, athletic training, academics, compliance, marketing, I mean, you name it. Doesn't matter if it's part-time or full-time. If you're wearing the brand and you're representing the institution, then that bylaw affects you as well.
So anything that touches athletics. So we're talking, because maybe I need to have this conversation with my student interns. Does this impact them as well?
It does. Once again, fantastic question. And the other thing about this is we've started at the beginning of the year, and this was I'm finishing up my first full academic cycle within the institution, having started back in May. So coming up on a year, closing in on a year here pretty soon, knock on wood. But within that, one of the things that we instituted very early on in the process was just kind of expanding some type of footprint within the sports wagering space for our student athletes and staff. And if you remember in all of our staff meetings, I will close it out with some very simple reminders. And one of them is always don't bet on it. So every single staff meeting that we're holding from a compliance standpoint, we're touching on that. At the beginning of the year at the intake meetings for all of our student athletes, we had multiple slides where we were talking about that in terms of the don't bet on it aspect of it and some of the recent sports wagering cases that were involved within the NCAA landscape at the Division 1, 2, and 3 level. And even as recently as last week before last, sent out some additional reminders to our student athletes, and we'll continue to send out more throughout this. So what this does is while it does generate some revenue, it also touches on and gives us an opportunity to really dig into this particular aspect and bring it to the forefront and talk to our student athletes about it more and more.
All right, so one more for you. We have Shamika coming on later. She is over the AAF. We have quite a few of our Aggies that are probably listening here this evening who help out with recruiting, who cook out for us, who do a lot of different volunteer type things for North Carolina A&T Athletics. Is it that far reaching?
Yes, believe it or not, it actually is. Not so much from a penalty standpoint. Well, I take that back. I mean, from a penalty standpoint, what the NCAA does when there's booster involvement in any type of major infractions or violation, one of the things that could happen is what's called a disassociation, and that disassociation means that any formal standing that you actually have with that individual, you pretty much have to cease it. So if it was a member of the AAF who's been a friend of the program or what have you, and is caught in violation of that or one other rule, and it's severe enough where it can get serve that type of penalty, then basically what we'd have to do is make every effort to remove that individual from the program. Now, does that mean we go into their house and tell them and snatch down all the interlocking A&T logos and tell them to send all their gear back? No, it doesn't. But in terms of ticketing opportunities, speaking engagements, direct involvement with the team or the staff or the institution as a whole, it's expected from an NCAA standpoint that we would uphold that if a disassociation penalty is issued.
Wow, that's tough. Man, it was tough. Man. No, we can't have Mr. D's or any of them guys doing that, because that's big time loot that's out there, but wow, that is far reaching. That I'm surprised by that.
It is, and once again, that's another entity that we absolutely need to make sure that we're getting in front of. I know that just as I mentioned before, this is my first year. This is my first year with the institution. But that being said, a lot of the programming that we've had that I've used in the past, we're going to have to make sure that we're starting to implement a little bit more in terms of booster engagement. So whether it's myself, Corey Lima, or Katrina Robinson, we need to be getting out there in front of all these different populations and just kind of spreading the word and take a more proactive approach in terms of that, because you just never know when a simple conversation or an innocent conversation may lead to some type of impropriety. Not that I think that our donor base would do that intentionally, but again, not knowing what you can and can't do are one of the things that our office is charged with making sure that everyone's on the same page and aware of the rules and regulations as it relates to their involvement with the program.
Yeah, I think my producer back there, Desmond Johnson, I think he's crying. He's associated with A&T now, and he's big time gambler. So we have to, Spencer Turk and all those guys. We're gonna have to have a long conversation with them. Yeah, no question. But no, that is very interesting. Let's transfer over to student athletes. Do you have an example, without mentioning the school or anything, where this has kind of already impacted a university? Do you have a story or two that can kind of illustrate this for our audience?
Yes, there are actually some very, very recent cases that are public, not under and still under NCAA investigation, wherein, oh my gosh, with one experience that I'm very familiar with, institution had a coaching staff member who was actively wagering on the on one of the program's athletics teams. Definitely used a lot of inside information because they were closely associated with the program. While they were not betting on their own program, they were betting on the opposite genders program, and in addition to some other things. So it wasn't just limited to college sports, but they were betting on professional sports, a lot of overseas stuff, highlight, very, 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 very big case. Went along for a long time. That individual, once we were able to get our hands around everything, that individual ended up serving a 15-year show cause penalty, which is still ongoing. And there were some additional penalties handed out by the institution, which doesn't get talked about a lot. So you've got your NCAA penalties that take place, but then there's also violations of institutional policy as well that took place, which have an even bigger effect upon your livelihood. So again, these things have very, very serious implications if we aren't following the rules appropriately. And so again, it's just really important for us to stay vigilant, making sure that we're getting the word out. And also just, and the flip side of that is making sure that people feel comfortable enough to come through and ask questions. I know that a couple of weeks ago at one of our more recent staff meetings, when we actually talked about sports wagering, did a whole presentation on that. There was a lot of engagement during that particular meeting. But one of the things that I loved was after the fact, there were a few people that reached out, just like, hey, what about this? What about that? And just the different scenarios that take place. So the fact that we're fostering an environment where people feel comfortable to come forth and even ask those questions shows that we're on the right track. So I'm optimistic, even amidst the challenges that face us.
Yeah, because listen, betting somebody is so easy. It's like, it's just really simple. Oh yeah, well, I bet you $20 he doesn't make that shot, or I bet you $20 that we do sweep Central, or I bet you this, that, and the other. Like, it's really, if you're arguing with your homeboy and y'all are into it,
Mhm.
the automatic go-to is put your money where your mouth is,
Right.
right? So, I
Yeah.
mean, like, so it's real easy to want to bet money with somebody, especially over sports when you start arguing those type of things. I mean, I think that's why the questions start to go out. What about? What about? What about? I mean, how many what abouts do you get a day?
Uh, well, more and more, I've gotten them just as the over the past few weeks have come, and this issue has become more and more real within the state. Previously, I would get my fair share as it relates to that, but the same example that I would always use is just put your pride up, not your money. So if it's just for bragging rights or something like that, then yeah, that's fine. But at the point you put up anything of value, that's where it gets complicated. And unfortunately, the other thing about this is from a reporting standpoint, a lot of things are kind of self-discovered either by the institution or just through the miracle of social media. Somebody says something to somebody else and then to someone else, and then all of a sudden it just gets to the right ear and it ends up crossing my desk somehow. So at that particular point, is does it mean that we catch everything? No, doesn't necessarily mean that, but just it's one of those things where when you do get caught, and it's just the seriousness of the penalties involved, it's hot fire. Just leave it alone, is what I
Wow.
suggest to all my staff and student athletes.
I got to stop debating sports, man. I got to stop. It's too slippy, too much of a slippery slope there, man. Too much. Curtis, give us a little bit about your background, and I asked that for a specific reason, but give us a little bit of your background and how you came to North Carolina A&T.
No, fantastic. So, North Carolina native, spent some time in the private sector in both the mortgage industry and the automotive finance industry before waking up one day and realizing that I hated all of that. I hated corporate America and I loved sports. Went to grad school, finished at Wingate in good old Wingate, North Carolina. My first job in college athletics was at Johnson C. Smith University as a graduate intern there, working in the compliance office, and it just rolled from there to with stops at UNC Charlotte, then at Rice University, and then down the street at the UNC Greensboro before coming here as the assistant athletic director for compliance. And actually going back to the beginning, I remember when what first got me interested in it, and it was the at the time the Nevin Shapiro case at the University of Miami, very big money booster who was involved in a Ponzi scheme, and through the when the feds got a hold of him from that, one of the bits and pieces of information that came out from that case is some of the impermissible benefits that he was providing to several members of the team of several sports teams there. The thing that knocked that off the front page, because it was national news everywhere, but the thing that knocked that off the front page was the University of North Carolina Chapel Hill case, where one of the student athletes tweeted it about being at a party, and from that one tweet, it ended up rolling to what we now recognize as the academic fraud case at Chapel Hill. So again, these things have a way of just kind of finding their way across the compliance officer's desk. So we have to stay vigilant on the reporting side of it, but we also need to make sure that we're doing our due diligence on the front end of it in terms of just letting everyone know where the boundaries are so that we can make sure that our student athletes are having the best experience possible, but also are protected from any type of impropriety that's going on out there, whether it be directly or indirectly.
With Curtis Candy here, our Assistant Athletics Director for Compliance. I ask you that, do you ever think that we would get to this moment of betting on college, NIL? I mean, the whole game has just, man, this is not, your dad's college athletics anymore. I mean, this is this thing is like crazy right now. And there's even talk about the NCAA not being as impactful as it is right now, and that landscape changing. I mean, this is it's a brave new world we're living in.
It is, and while some might find that terrifying, I remember I don't know, maybe it's just how I'm wired. It's the uncertainty that's involved with all of it is just kind of exciting to me, and being on being on the ground level when these historic shifts are taking place is something that still really, really appeals to me. And it's one of the reasons why I love getting up every day and coming in and doing what I do. So to that point, yeah, I would say just within the past 5 years, just some of the things that we've witnessed. I mean, so we're from the start of the impacts of COVID-19 and the pandemic and the shutdown and the impact that had on on the college landscape, and just how we were kind of faced with a world without college athletics, to lead into the launch of name, image, and likeness. We're 3 years away from that now. And then even from one of the things that hasn't been mentioned, but it seems like now with a lot of states, if you don't like the decision that the NCAA makes,
That's
you
right.
can
That's right.
and just sue everybody.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And the NCAA usually loses those cases.
No, absolutely. I mean, and that's one of the other things that's going on right now. I mean, from a PR standpoint, we're taking several hits as a membership. But at the end of the day, I mean, it just there's nothing like college sports. Has it changed over time, over the past 5-10 years? Absolutely. Will it continue to evolve over this next 12 to 18 months? Absolutely. And I'm here for all of it.
Man, shout out to James, ODB, Larry, for listening to us. But Lonnie Shaw just took us there. He wants to know about the impact of the portal and NIL, and that's always a major thing that is going on. I mean, like, coaches are almost having to re-recruit their guys that are on their team at this point in time because the money is out there. What is that impact on college athletics?
No, fantastic question. And I know you guys have Coach Ross coming on later, and I'd be curious to hear what some of what his perspective on that is as well. But to that point, just the transfer portal has been transformational. If I
very good. As a writer, I love that. Thank you.
What in effect, what it has done is it literally changed how coaches recruit and when coaches recruit, and I don't think that gets talked about enough. Because what happened with the transfer portal is there were different recruiting cycles that took place that were just as regular as winter, spring, summer, and fall, and everyone in the industry just kind of knew them and how to operate by that. But then once the transfer portal took place, there were several institutions that just totally adjusted their recruiting strategies, and that had a trickle-down effect on everything. It's almost like when you introduce an invasive species to a new population, and then over time, certain things get wiped out, or what used to be a snake has now turned into a lizard overnight. But one of the impacts that we've seen is the impact that it's had on high school student athletes.
Yeah, correct.
There was a time as a high school student athlete where you could wait during the early signing period and wait for the regular signing. And so you could defer during the early signing period and wait to the regular signing period just to see if you're going to get better offers, because maybe you're betting on yourself to have a better second half of the season. Well, nowadays, if you're a high school student athlete and you get an offer to sign during that regular signing period, it's probably in your best interest to take that, because with the transfer portal in that late period, there's no guarantee that that space is still going to be available. Because if I'm a college coach, now I'm thinking about, all right, do I want something that do I want a prospect that I have to bring in and just kind of show them the ropes and hope that they get acclimated to the college environment? Or do I take someone a little seasoned who can transfer, and then the rules as they were before, probably got a little bit more commitment from them because their ability to transfer multiple times, before this fall, was limited. So I know I can get someone who's a little bit more seasoned, and I know I'm going to have that individual for 2 or 3 years, as opposed to if I had this great find at a high school, and let's say he or she does really well, some other institution comes through and plucks them. So to the listener's point, that's one of the impacts of name, image, and likeness, what that's done, and whether it's done permissibly or impermissibly, but with the access of social media, a lot of the students are showing and talking about what it is that they're getting and what they have at institution A versus institution B. So if I'm not getting as much and I'm not as committed to the institution as before, I'm probably a little bit more prone to kind of look at those things, or even to the point of like, you know what, I played against that kid in high school and I'm 1,000 times better than him. And if he's getting that or she's getting that, who's to say I can't get that on the open market? So no, it's absolutely a game changer.
Yeah, no question. I mean, and like you said, the conversations are happening. If I'm in the blocks in the 100, and I'm talking to a kid from Texas A&M or LSU, and I understanding what they're getting, that's also playing a role in whether I want to stay at maybe a lower D1, that type of thing, versus being able to transfer to get those type of things, because now that's kind of open to me as well. So yeah, there's just all kinds of transformation right now. And then if you're a coach, if you're bringing a big freshman class out of high school, you probably don't have to go back into the high school pool for another 2 years, because there's so many guys in the portal that want opportunities to transfer.
Yeah, and I know for a fact that one of my previous stops before arriving at A&T, that same thing just happened. Brought in a dynamic freshman class, got lots of minutes, lots of opportunities to get on the court and or get on the field of play, and really show what they had. And then at the conclusion of that academic year, of the five, I believe of the five people that were actually recruited to that institution, 4 of them left, and
Wow.
all went on to high majors. Again, it's difficult, and it's one of those things where it's one of the challenges that coaches have to face, where not only do you have to be keen on the recruiting process in terms of identifying that talent, but even from a commitment standpoint, just it's almost like a constant recruiting process, just in terms of making sure if they have what they need. Are they, are they happy? Are they content with what's going on? Are they bought into the vision that you've laid out as a coach? And then on the outside of that is like, all right, are you able to fight away the bad actors that may be whispering, dropping that sweet honey in their ear, telling them to come over to the other side of the fence?
Yeah, no question. Desmond, do we have Coach Ross into the building? If so, drop him in for us.
He's not in yet.
He's not in yet. Okay.
No.
All right. Great. Shemaya, let's give Curtis a few of your this or that as we close out with him.
Okay, let's get it started. So cash or cards?
Cards.
Okay. Early bird or night owl?
Ooh. Early bird.
Swimming pool or beach?
Beach.
New phone or new clothes?
Oh gosh, it's absolutely a new phone. If anything, I'm one of the cheapest individuals that you will ever come across. Like so much so that I was out a few weeks ago with a former coworker of mine, and she looked at me walking in. She's like, "Is that a members only jacket?" I'm like, "No, it's not a members only jacket. It's a polo jacket. But if I had a working members only jacket, I would wear it if it kept me warm."
Well, he took that back. Yeah, I don't even think Shemaya knows.
I have no idea what members.
He has no idea what members only.
No idea.
You just showed your age, homeboy. You just showed your age. That is 80s right there, baby.
Yes.
So text or call?
Call.
Showed his age again. Shemaya, those guys, they like text, don't you?
Yes, text me. Text me. If you call them when I think something's wrong. Change the past or see the future?
Wow, that's a good one. I guess I would change the past, because I would be very selective in terms of what and when I apply that. So, and I think seeing the future, I like being surprised about the things to come. So yeah, I definitely would change the past on just a handful of things.
Interesting answer. I like it.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. Curtis, got James Sparrow in here. He wanted to know, what do you think about the conference alignments, teams changing conferences, those type of things?
Yeah, well, I'd love to tell you what I think if I felt that it was over, but we're not done yet. So just given the way this college landscape has gone, because there's still a whole divisional discussion that we need to have on a national level. So specifically as it relates to us, in terms of our move to the coastal, lots of benefits across the board, lots of new exposure, lots of opportunity as well. One of the things specifically is like with our baseball program, moving to the coastal, it's one of the more difficult conferences in the country.
It's tough.
So
It's tough.
just with the team doing as well as it's doing right now, that's going to mean something later on. That gives us an opportunities for those at-large bids, gives us an opportunity to get better because iron sharpens iron. And with the same thing with some of our other sports, where we're able to shift over and compete right away, whereas others we're probably going to have to build that a little bit. But long story long. Like I said, for the right now, the move, it's still going to be a work in progress for a lot of our teams. There are a lot of immediate benefits that we've seen, but again, I would not be stunned if across like on the national level, if we were not to see any more changes. And with those changes, who knows, maybe some additional opportunities for us as well.
Members only, Jackie. You got him laughing. That's good. Yeah, that's good. I haven't heard that in a long time. That's good. Will there be a Power 5 in 5 or 10 years, or will it just be a Power 2?
Great question. I don't see how we can move back because all of this is tied to at the end of the day, all of it's tied to money. And if it makes sense, and the money's going to show, then.
Oh, I want to hear that answer.
Right.
Man. All right. Let's readjust here. Do we have Coach? All right. We got Coach Ross. Well, what are we doing? Okay. All right. Let's bring both of them in. How about that? Coach Ross, A&T. All right. Good. Because Coach Ross is going to be bothering Curtis in a few minutes about getting some kids in. So that's good. We'll bring them on the screen together. It's all good. How you doing, Coach?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Man, we're fantastic. We're closing out here with Curtis. Curtis, someone wanted to know, will there be any website or anything out there that we'll work on in order to make sure that everyone knows the rules and they're abiding by the rules, boosters, student athletes, the whole nine?
Yes, there is. We've actually been underway for that for the past couple of months. Just kind of laying out just thinking about it from a formatting standpoint. We've got it laid out in theory in terms of what we wanted to do, but there are a couple of technical things and new partnerships that we were working with from an NIL standpoint, and also from an administrative organizational standpoint. A lot of those deals were signed within like as recently as the past 2-3 weeks. So now it's time to lay that groundwork down and actually bring it to fruition. So I would definitely expect before the end of the academic year, once again, knock on wood, that we actually see some updates within that as it relates to an informational resource for boosters, agents, outside entities, as it relates to not just rules and regulations, but even for name, image, and likeness activities.
Outstanding. What did we learn all here today, ladies and gentlemen? Don't bet on it. Just don't bet on it. Don't do it. Thank you, Curtis, man. We appreciate it. We appreciate your time. Appreciate the education as well. And we'll see you down the road, my man.
Hey, fantastic. Thanks for having me. Look forward to seeing you guys again sometime in the near future.
All right. Take care, Curtis.
Take care.
We are now here with head men's basketball coach, Monte Ross. His team just finished their season. He just finished his first year here at North Carolina A&T. Their season ended in the CAA tournament to William and Mary. And Coach, let's jump right into it, man. So Shemaya and I were there. We had a football game right after a scrimmage. And so we're there. And Will Felton is like doing his thing, man. Like he's getting rebounds, he's getting putbacks, he's scoring. And it's like, man, wow, we got Will Felton on the floor. We're against Presbyterian. And then, man, I can't even describe it. It was just really, it was really tough to see. Really a gruesome injury, and it was almost like, it was almost foreshadowing to what it would end up being for us during the 23-24 season. As you look at that, as you remember that day, what goes through your mind?
Well, the first thing was it was the scream that Will let out was horrifying, and so then I rushed over, and it was like you described it. It was very, very tough, just because what goes through your mind in the immediacy is uh, Will's mental state. Uh, is he okay? And it's horrifying to think about it like this, but when I had little kids, someone once told me, as long as they're crying, they're okay. As long as
Mm.
you hear them crying, they're okay.
Mm.
And in a tragic way, just because I heard Will, actually crying, uh, again, in a strange way, it made me feel a little better. Like, okay, there's something. But, so once he got himself together and Tish came over and we got him off the court, um, when I walked back over to the huddle, it was like when I looked into the guy's eyes, for a a few minutes, I contemplated just telling the coach of Presbyterian that we can't go on, just because the look in the guy's eyes, and the way that our hearts felt for Will. And injuries happen, so it wasn't so much the injury at that point. It was, one, he had been through so much and had taken himself through so much to get back onto the court. Two, he was such a leader for us out there on the court. Um, and you know how Will is. Like, his personality is one that he gets along with everybody.
He's a good kid.
Yeah, people just gravitate towards him. And when it happened, it shook us. It shook us, and it took us. It took us a little bit of time to get ourselves together, and not just the players, us as a coaching staff as well, because it kept flashing into my mind all the work that Will put into coming back from the ACL injury the prior year, and it was just hard. It was hard to go through it, that moment. And so once the scrimmage ended, and we were walking towards the locker room, and obviously you have to walk past the training room and get to the locker room. It made us all feel a lot better when we were able to walk into the training room before we walked into the locker room and just see Will, and be able to grab him and hug him, and just him. He was like, I'm gonna be all right. How do we do? How do we do in this? That's his personality. That's the way he operates. So, but you're right. From that standpoint, from that point on in the season, it was just tough. It's nothing I've ever been a part of. Haven't never experienced anything like that. So it was tough. It was tough.
Yeah, it was a strange, very crazy year. So many storylines with the men's basketball team. It was just, it was unreal. I want to, before we move on to, how is he? Because like you said, when you see him, he's so upbeat. He's just really a personable kid. But how is he mentally? Because he really hasn't been on the court probably in about 3 years
Yeah.
competitively.
Yeah.
So how is he holding up, and how is his, I guess, his mental state more so than his physical state?
Well, mentally, just because he is the type of personality that he is, he's doing okay. He's doing fine. And um, Tish said that he will be able to participate in our spring workouts, which will start up probably in about um, a week and a half, 2 weeks from now. He'll be able to participate in them. So he's he's done a great job in terms of his rehab. He's really worked his tail off to try to get back. So, we're looking forward to, again, just having him with us and be a part of the team once we start our workouts this spring.
We're here with head coach Monte Ross. A lot of love out here for the Aggie baseball team. Off to a 11-4 start. Warren Mitchell and Hans and you guys. So shout out to the Aggie baseball team. Don't want to miss out on the great start that they're off to. So we go into we lose Felton perhaps for the season, and then your other big Jason Murphy. Like I said, the storylines were just tremendous. Your other big Jason Murphy is sitting as well. Not because of an injury, but because of a NCAA ruling about transfers, about players transferring twice. And so now you are not only without your 6'9" center, you're without another 6'9" center. What was the mindset coming into the season, knowing that two of your bigger bigs were out?
Well, it's interesting because this summer when we were working out, we looked at that to be a position of strength for us because we had two big body young men who were physical, who could score the ball around the basket. So we were really looking forward to it. And we had game planned in terms of the makeup of our style of play was to make sure that we got those guys the ball. So when Will went down and Murph was not able to participate, it really threw us into scramble mode where we really had to adjust and see how we can get the best out of what we had. And it turned out to be Jeremy Robinson. Jeremy Robinson was, unfortunately, he was played out of position. He was a 6'6" center. He turned out to be for us, and that's not what he is. So we were playing him out of position, but kudos to J-Rob. He just, he never blinked. He just went along with it. He did whatever we asked him to do. And I can't thank him enough for what he did for us because he was a force. It's interesting when we were preparing for William and Mary in the conference tournament, I went back and looked at our game against them. And there was a stretch in the game where we just went to J-Rob like 3 times in a row, and he got buckets for us. So, sometimes you don't understand or you miss how important someone is until you don't have them, and then it becomes quite evident how important it was. So, but we didn't have J-Rob for this game because he goes down with a meniscus injury, and it was just like we had 5 knee injuries, non-contact this year. And that's something I've never seen, never been a part of. For that to happen, it was trying. It was trying. But one of the things that we tell our guys is you have to be able to overcome. You have to be able to adjust. You have to be able to say to yourself, it's not what happens to me, it's how I react to what happens to you. So we talked to them all year about controlling our controllables, which was our energy, our effort, and our attitude. And I thought they did a tremendous, tremendous job despite the circumstances. And that's one of the things that I said to them after the William and Mary game is how appreciative I was of them, that they just kept moving forward, kept playing hard, kept playing for 40 minutes every single night until that buzzer went off. They just gave it. And it could have been very easy. Human nature suggests that they could have very easily just given in and, threw in the towel, but they didn't do it. They just kept trying every single solitary minute that we had presented to us.
Their effort was great. I mean, some of the games that they competed in, their effort was great, and we'll get to that later. Since we're still in the preseason, we haven't even got out of the preseason yet with some of the things that went on with us. We're going to take James's question. He had a question about Quay Brown, his status, and where does that stand for North Carolina A&T?
Well, right now, well, just to give the backstory for those who don't know, Quay Brown had an Achilles injury that wasn't properly rehabbed. It was rehabbed as if he was a regular citizen and not rehabbed as if he was an elite athlete. So when the doctor gave him a release, there was no consideration for the pounding that he would take being a Division I athlete. So he basically had to start all over once he got to A&T. So, but I'm happy to report that he's in a good place right now. He's another one that will be able to join us for our off-season workouts in the next week and a half, 2 weeks when we get started. So he's going to be a part of us, and very, very pleased and happy to be able to report that. Now, the other question I get is, what type of impact will Quay have on our team? I have no idea. No idea. And it's funny because I said it to him one day in practice. Quay, come here, man. He said, "What's up, coach?" I said, "Let me ask you something, man. Like, what's your game? Like how are you going to impact us? Like, when you look at us and watch us play, where do you fit in to what we can do and everything?" And it's funny I have to ask that question because I've never seen him play live. Like, I've seen highlights and that sort of thing, but I've never seen him play live. So he just laughed and, "Coach, that's good, man. I can play defense." I said, "Shoot, well, we need that." And that's one of our staples of our program. And, he's obviously his athleticism. Hopefully he'll be able to gain that back from the rehab of the Achilles and everything. So, yeah, happy to report that Quay will be back with us this spring.
Yeah, just for clarification and context, he was recruited by the previous staff, and then he was here for North Carolina A&T, and I've heard good things about him. But like you, I've never seen him play, but you hear good things about him, and so hopefully he'll be able to impact our program in a positive way. So we get to the season. It's 0-9 start, and part of the issue probably is points in the paint, rebounding, all those things that a big, if he's eligible for you or healthy, will be able to impact for you. What was the mood of the team when you kind of finally got Jason Murphy back into the mix? Got a big win down at Coastal over the holidays, but what was the 0-9 start for you, and what was it like being able to get at least one of your big men back?
Well, it's interesting because one of the things that we talked about throughout the entire preseason or non-conference part of the season was everything we do, guys, is in preparation for January the 4th. And that was our first conference game against Campbell. So we knew, when we put the non-conference schedule together, that it was very, very difficult. And I told the guys, I said, "You know what, man, we can very easily schedule some Division II, some Division III schools and pile up some wins." I said, "But I don't have that type of time to throw away a game and not be able to garner some serious, evaluation from it. I really need to see how we react against really difficult competition to let me know, okay, these are the things that we really have to work on. These are the things that we're deficient in. These are the things that we're strong in prior to January the 4th." Because, sometimes when you play those Division II or Division III games, you get a false sense of security. And I told the guys, I said, and that's when we talked about all the time with our guys being committed to the process without being emotionally attached to the results. And I knew like we were there. It was we had played a really difficult game. I'm not sure if it was Citadel or High Point. And that next practice after that game was one of our best practices of the year. And I said, "Man, the way you guys, after coming off of the loss that we just had, and the losses that we had garnered, for you guys to come out and practice like that speaks volumes about where we're going to be able to go this season, where we're going to be able to take this thing." And again, everything is in preparation for January the 4th. So as long as we have not gotten discouraged because of the losses, we've gotten better. You've shown me some things. And by the time we finished our last non-conference game against George Mason, I told him, I said, "Man, we're ready. We're ready. You've shown me what I needed to see in terms of us moving forward and how we can handle conference play. And I was ecstatic about the way we were progressing, the you know the changes and the challenges that we had overcome. I was just ecstatic and was just so happy about where we were at that point.
The questions are flowing in for our head coach, Monte Ross. We'll get to those. We'll make sure that we can get some of those questions answered for you. That non-conference was, I mean, 2 ACC teams, an A10 team. Sanford is one of the top teams in the Southern Conference, so that schedule was brutal. I felt like the High Point game and the Central game were games that we were really competitive in, and it started to look like we were kind of turning the tide a little bit. And then we got introduced to Landon Glasper. Were you aware of just how the type of scorer he was? I mean, he had a couple of 30-point games even before we got into conference. Were you aware just how much he could put the ball in the basket?
Well, he scored the ball very well at Coffeyville, and when he displayed his percentages, when I saw his percentages, because sometimes people can score the basketball, but they don't have great numbers in terms of percentages. But when I saw his percentages at the JUCO, I knew that it could be somebody that translated to our level. And he's a born scorer. He's just a born scorer. He's a young man that is often overstated when they say you can score at all three levels, meaning jump shot, mid range, and getting to the basket. But he truly displays that every single night, where he's scoring at all three levels, and just a terrific scorer. And the way that we got him, Cam Shell told me, once we had some people that were leaving us and going into the portal, he said, "Coach, don't worry about it. The best shooter and scorer that I've ever played with me last year in junior college." And I said, "Well, who was?" He gave me his number. I reached out to Landon, and it was funny because I said, "Look, we want to get this process started. We want to get to know each other, build a relationship, and that sort of thing." And he said, "Fine, coach, that sounds good." I said, "Okay, well, I'll stay in touch," and that sort of thing. He called me back like 15, half hour later and said, "Coach, I'm coming." "You coming on a visit?" He's like, "No, I talked to my folks and everything. I'm coming. I want to play with Cam." And he tells me how you've been running things and that sort of thing. So I'm in. So really, for one of the more talented players I've ever coached, talented scorers, it was one of the easiest recruiting paths that I've had in the last 30 years. So, but he's just a great young man. He's fun to be around. He's yes sir, no sir. He's really he's a great representative of what Aggies are all about.
Outstanding. Third team all conference. First A&T player to average 20 in a season in almost 30 years. So he certainly he was certainly a big time scorer for North Carolina A&T. So you start 4-2 in the conference. You're tied for second in the league. Things are going well for you. We get a tough road trip, the Drexel Delaware road trip, two of the better teams in the conference. You have to play them on the road. So you drop to 4-4, but then you get the runner down at Hampton. You go to 5-4, and you lose your leading scorer at that point. And you've said several times, we're just not where we need to be year one in the program to be able to overcome losing 20 points, 21 points per game. Talk about that start that you guys had. What was the mindset at that point when you're 4-2?
We were, again, just remembering that the whole non-conference, we preached to the guys, it's in preparation for conference play, guys. Just stay with us, trust this process. It's in preparation for conference play. So then when we opened up against Campbell, and had a pretty, uh, you know, pretty handily handled them pretty handily. It opened the guy's eyes where you can talk and talk and talk, but they need to see some results. And when after the result of that game, I think it clicked for them, and when they understood that, okay, we are ready, we are battle tested. We're ready for anything that comes up against us here in the non-conference or in the conference play. So then we played Campbell, and I believe that next game was maybe it was at Elon. I believe it was at Elon. And then we didn't play well in that first half. And I thought that's where the game was won and lost. So we dropped the 1-1. We come back home. We play Drexel at home. And after that game, I think they really, really knew, because Drexel was one of the hottest teams coming in. They were undefeated in conference play, and we missed a ton of layups and missed a ton of free throws in that game. That shouldn't have been a 4-point game. We should have won that game by however many points. And I think after that game, it gave our guys a lot of confidence. So we dropped the 1 and 2, and then we have the tough week where we have to play 3 games in a row. So we're at Hampton, come home for Northeastern, and William and Mary. We won 3 games in a week, which is always difficult to do. So we got the 4 and 2. So we're feeling really good. We're feeling really good, and we're right where we thought that we could be. We could be 5 and 1 right now, guys. But those things happen in the course of league play. You're going to drop some that you think you should win. You're going to win some where you probably could have lost. So at 4 and 2, tied for second place. Then we go to Delaware, and what some people don't remember is Nikos didn't play in that Delaware game. He got sick, so he missed Delaware and Drexel, and he being our leading rebounder, we missed him in that game. And then in that game, Landon hurts his knee, and he goes out. He doesn't play the last 10, 11 minutes of the first half, and then he's able to come back with probably about 10 minutes to go in the second half. And remarkably, the doctors, when we were in the doctor's office, when they were examining his knee at the hospital a couple days later, when we got back to Greensboro, they said, "You came back and played?" And he was like, "Yeah." They were like, that was remarkable, because your kneecap literally came out of place and popped back in. But that, for you to be able to come back and play on that, is remarkable. So we dropped to
Didn't he have like 20 in the second half?
yeah, he ended the game
crazy
with like 20, 22 points. And it was like, this kid is just wired to score. And it was just amazing. So not having Nikos, and then with Landon not being able to really play, he was spotty in the Delaware game, and then he was out after that. So we go to Drexel, and so we lose. So we end up losing those 2 in a row. So now we're 4 and 4, and coming back home to play Hampton on February the 1st. And in every league that I've been in, we've always said that when you get to the halfway point, if you're at 500 or above, well, then you're a contender in the league. And we were able to beat Hampton to go to 5 and 4, and that was a tremendous win for us. Tremendous, because now you're talking about guys, other teams having the opportunity to game plan, knowing that Landon wasn't going to be playing. Drexel didn't really have the time to game plan for it, but Hampton had the time to game plan for him not. So they were, in tune to he's not going to play. These are other guys that we have to take away, knowing that we don't have to deal with Landon. And the way our guys, we slowed the game down, and the way that they executed, and to be able to pull out that game with a defensive stop at the end of the game to get to 5 and 4. I just gave our team a tremendous amount of credit. So that was on January the 22nd that we lost to Delaware. So from January 22nd to the end of the season, we never had our full team back together again, because when Landon finally did come back in the Stony Brook game, Cam got hurt 5 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
So now he's out. So now you're playing without, just one of them again. We had Cam for that stretch. Then, no, we just had Landon for the stretch. And then Murph is done for the year. He tears his meniscus. Jeremy Robinson had torn his meniscus a couple games before that. So we were never full strength from the time we were 4-2 on, because Nikos had gotten sick. From 4-2 on January the 21st, we were never had our whole squad together again, and that's the unfortunate thing for us, because with a full squad, we, instead of having 5 wins in conference, we probably have about 8 or 9 wins in conference if we had our full squad. But again, I don't want to take away from the guys that played and were able to play. Just so proud and appreciative of their efforts and what they were able to do to help us be competitive and have chances to win some of our games. But like you mentioned, we just weren't equipped in year one to be able to overcome losing 21 points a game from our leading scorer.
Question. One of the highlights of the season that was great was Coach Ross high-fiving the dog pound at the end of the Hampton game. That was one of the great moments of the season. You kind of looked at that and you go, wow, this guy gets it, man. Like he really gets it. He understands what college athletics is and all about, and what being on the campus is all about. So one of the great moments.
The other thing that with that was after I high-fived the dog pound, it was Greek night. So I was actually going to go to half court and shimmy, but there was other things going on.
You want to pull out the cane, right? You want to pull out the cane.
I tell you what, though, man,
that would have got social media going.
You would have went viral, Coach.
I tell you what, and I mean this from the bottom. I've never, that was one of the most energetic atmospheres I've ever been a part of. Like that Hampton crowd, our students, our fans. Oh my gosh, that was
wonderful.
Electric.
That was wonderful.
It was electric, and that's what I know we're going to get to. We're going to build this program to where that's going to be a staple of ours. That type of crowd is going to be a staple of ours, and that's what drives me every single day in recruiting, is to let's get some guys in here that can make that. Because I mean, it's we were shorthanded and we still didn't lose in that atmosphere. It's hard to lose, when your fans and students and the band and everybody show out like that. That was just fantastic.
That's the first night we had the lights too, right, Shemaya? The first night.
Yes.
Yeah. That whole night was electric. That whole night was certainly special. Yeah. I think you always have to ask the captain if he ever dropped a cane. Is that always the requirement?
I've never dropped a cane.
That was a good one, B.
Man. All right, let's get to recruiting. Because everybody wants us to talk about recruiting and all those fun things. But as you look at the landscape of the CAA, we got one question here about recruiting foreign kids. Of course, we had Hida Kudus this year, who did a great job for us. Turned into a rebounding machine for us. Is international recruiting something that you guys and your staff are looking at?
Yes. It's always, we're not shutting any doors. We're not turning our back on any players. Like anybody that fits what we're trying to do here at A&T, to be representing that Aggie nation proudly. We're not turning our back to. Like we're turning over every rock. We're looking over. We're going everywhere. Anything we can do. We're checking all leads that we get, because this thing is, we understand how to turn it around. We understand how to get to raising banners in Corbett, and this is part of the process. This is part of the process. So no, we're not turning our back on any foreign players or anything. I tell you what, especially if they're like Nikos. Like you said, Nikos was a great addition for us this year, and just the way he was rebounding the ball. It's funny. I was talking to my son earlier today, and we were talking about the team and everything. And one of the questions he said to me is, "Dad, how does somebody just start rebounding at the level that Nico started rebounding at the end of the year?" I
Right.
said, he just, I think he always had a knack for it, but he just was becoming more and more comfortable with the American game. And, people don't understand that a lot of times when foreign players come over, they go to a prep school, and so they're getting acclimated for a year before they step onto a college campus. Nikos came right from Greece and stepped right on A&T's campus. So not only did he have to get acclimated to an HBCU, not only did he have to get acclimated to Greensboro, acclimated to America, acclimated to the American game, he had to do all of that right away as soon as he got here. So again, you could see in the course of the year how he was getting more and more comfortable with us and with the game. And I think the future is so bright for Nikos.
We talked to Curtis earlier, and of course, the transfer portal has become huge. I mean, it's just kind of changed the whole landscape of college athletics as a whole, especially when you're talking men's basketball and football. Is that a big component for you in terms of the transfer? You had quite a few freshmen this year. Is that a component for you as you look into the trend? Because you almost have to maybe keep your players and then maybe go after some people that are in the portal. Like it's a crazy world that we live in now.
No, it really is. It really is. But to answer your question, yes, the transfer portal is huge for us, and it's important that the fans understand, because I get a lot of emails about high school kids that they want me to look at and want me to investigate and that sort of thing. And we do our homework, but it's just that we had 8 freshmen and sophomores, on the team this year. So we have to get a little older. Like, we can't bring in more freshmen right now. We have to go through the transfer portal and get some older, more experienced guys, just because we were so young last year. We were the 8th youngest team in Division I this past season. And, that's a recipe for my hair never growing back. So we have to get a little older and a little more experienced. So that's where the transfer portal comes in. But like you said, we have to re-recruit our own guys, because, certain schools operate not so much above board, where they will call your guys, they'll text your guys, they'll recruit your guys that are on your team during the season. They'll do all that type of stuff, and they got no shame. It's like the wild, wild west. So they don't care about waiting until a kid gets in the portal or anything like that. They see a good play on your team, they're calling them. They're calling people that he knows. Maybe a high school coach, maybe an AAU coach, maybe a cousin or whomever. They're just doing that. Now, the transfer portal doesn't open up until, for men's basketball, March 18th, next Monday. And, so that's when you're supposed to wait. If a kid goes in the portal, then obviously you're allowed to call them. But so that's what we're going to do. We're going to wait until the 18th to see if some kids go in the portal that we would like to reach out to, and we'll do it. But, you have to, as a coach in this day and age, there used to be a code that coaches had. One, if a kid, and I know they never had this in football, but if a kid verbally committed to you, you never touch that kid. No other coaches would stop calling them and that sort of thing, because it was just a code that you had that you didn't cross. Nowadays it's supposed to be a code of wait until the 18th so everybody gets in the portal. but it's no honor amongst thieves right now. People will say that, oh no, it has nothing to do with it, but that's why Mike Krzyzewski retired, Roy Williams retired, Jay Wright retired, because this thing has gotten so out of control in terms of you have a lot of coaches who they don't work from a system of honor, a system of code, or anything like that. They work from a system of, okay, what's good for me? And not so much what's good for the student athlete. And I talk to my players about it all the time. Like, you have a lot of coaches out here who they don't care anything about you. All they care about is, can you help me win? Can you put that ball in the basket and help me win? Then, okay, well, fine. You're good with me. And we talk to them all about, man, this thing is so much bigger than basketball. It's about you getting a degree. It's about you becoming a good citizen and representing North Carolina A&T. Whatever field that you want to go into, there's 70,000, 80,000 alums across the country from North Carolina A&T. Somebody's going to know somebody in the field that you want to go into, and you're going to be able to get a job. You're going to be able to go into a career, go into a field, and be successful. And that's what we talk to our guys about all the time. Like, don't just be short-sighted and just think, oh, well, this guy's offering me this amount of money, I'm just going to go. Okay, that has happened to us. And unfortunately, there are some examples where young men have made mistakes, and but that there is no code anymore in this transfer portal. It's become the wild, wild west.
Well, if I wasn't old and 5'9", I'd sign up to play for A&T, because that was a great recruiting pitch right there, man. That was beautiful.
Definitely.
Yeah, man, I'd sign to play with A&T, no question. And hopefully, if a recruit hears that, they will sign up to play for North Carolina A&T, because that was outstanding, and that was great. And you mentioned all those coaches. Nick Saban,
Yes.
left the game as well. And not only do you said just have to deal with the parent and the high school coach. Now everybody has handlers and all these other kind of things, and so it just makes it just a little more difficult. We had a question about guys that can shoot the three and slash to the basket. Harold asked that question in terms of, he seems like that's what he sees in the CAA. You got Glasper hopefully back in the mix. Is there any other scores that you kind of want to add to the equation for A&T going into next season?
Yeah, I think we need to add another score, and that's, I like to be an experienced scorer to go along with Landon and his abilities to score, to go along with Cam and his abilities to create and get wide open shots for scores. We like to get a more experienced scorer out of the portal if we can.
In terms of depth, we played one game. We had a 6-man rotation. How important is it to you to just kind of add, I believe, Erthel, I say your name right, Hines, kind of asked that question in terms of not only experience, but just how much depth you'll be able to add coming into next season?
Well, that's important because, unfortunately, when you're playing this college game, injuries happen, and you have to be able to withstand that. And the only way you can do that is with quality depth on your roster. And again, like I said, with us getting the job at the time that we got the job, we had to pretty much rush and fill a roster. So we'll be able to get some quality young men to add to our roster and have some depth. Hopefully we don't have injuries, but if we do, hopefully we'll be able to have some guys that will be able to come in. And like you said, we won't have to play with 6 guys. That was that was tough. That was tough. And Nico's, and God bless his heart, he was doing everything he could out there, just trying to not get into foul trouble, not showing me that he was tired, all those types of things. And all the guys they were really, really true troopers during that time.
Shout out to Anita Wright. She's very proud of Nick and how he progressed through the season, and we all are very proud of how he progressed. Coach, talk about your off-seasoning, conditioning, those type of things. What do you have planned for your players? CAA, from when I looked at the teams like Townsend and Drake, they had some big beefy guys, that could really pound you a little bit. Talk about your offseason conditioning and kind of how you want to approach that, you and your staff.
Well, the first thing we want to do is we're going to meet with all the guys, and we met as a staff today. We'll meet as a staff tomorrow just to gather and garner all the information on this season, individual guys, where they have to improve, where we have to improve as a team, as a program, as a whole, and where they have to improve individually, some of the things that we're looking for them to do. And, weightlifting and conditioning is a huge, huge part of that, because like you said, we were playing against a lot of guys. Like, for us to have so many guys, well, we only had 2 guys that had any type of Division I experience. That was Kyle and Jeremy Robinson. Those are only 2 on the team that had any Division I experience. So, we were playing against guys that, they were 4th, 5th, and sometimes 6-year seniors. So their bodies naturally were going to be bigger than ours. But with that being said, we have to have a very, very, one of the most important pieces in terms of growing a program is your strength and conditioning program as well. So it goes right alongside. I like to say, as your program grows, your strength and conditioning has to be at the head of it, and making your guys bigger, stronger, and making sure that they're in great condition, so that they can play longer, that their stamina is such that they can withstand however long they have to play. So what we do is we'll give the guys off, let them recharge their batteries for the rest of this week and next week. And then that following week, we'll get started with our strength and conditioning, and we'll do individual workouts as well. We won't do as much team stuff because, I like to give them a break from my voice, because I've been at it with them since August, and shoot before August, probably since the last week in June. They've been hearing my voice, so I like them to hear the assistant's voice. And we do individual work in the spring, and we'll pick back up with the team stuff during second summer session. So we'll do individual work for the rest of the spring. When school ends, we'll allow them to go home. Those that want to go home can go home for first summer session, and then we require everyone to be back for second summer session. That's when we start our team stuff and start practicing and start back up with our strength and conditioning program.
Outstanding. Very informational there from head coach Monte Ross. Will enter his second season in 24-25. Shout out to Joseph Level, our PA announcer. The man can hold a T like nobody's business.
Yes, he can.
And the word Aggies is just sitting there waiting on a limb, and while he's still saying T. So shout out to him. But he really enjoyed your post-game speech after our final home game with Townsend. What led to that? What kind of motivated you to kind of give that speech to the Aggie fans? And I've been here for a little while. It was bold. So what kind of led you to give that confident that speech to the fan base?
Well, in full disclosure, a gentleman, Vess Johnson, who ran the facilities when I was at the University of Delaware, he came up to me one season and said, "You know what? It'd be a nice touch if you just thank the fans for all their support and that sort of thing." And actually, I had forgotten about that, and my mother reminded me of it a couple of days before the last game. So it was just a thing that I used to do at the end of the last home game at Delaware. And I just wanted to really thank the fans, because I appreciate the heck out of them. Like, they stayed with us, they cheered us on, and we know that it wasn't the results that they wanted, because it wasn't the results that we wanted. But I hope that they could see the growth in our team. I hope they could see the discipline in our team. I hope they could see, how we were developing young men, and it's going to continue. But I just wanted to say thank you to them and just let them know that we're going to get this program to where they want it to be, where we want it to be, where it deserves to be, where all the players that have played here in the past can be proud of what we're able to do and what we're doing. So yeah, it's something that I'll do after every home game, and I mean after every senior, our last home game, just to say thank you, because I don't take it for granted. I know they especially when you're having the type of season that we had, they could very easily have gone other places, stayed home, watched television, watched whatever, but they chose to come out and spend their time cheering us on and encouraging us, and I really, really appreciate it. And I'll tell you this, man, I used to get a kick out of every time they would announce the other team, and my man in the middle of the section would just go, "Boo,
Boom.
boo you, boo you too." Man, I used to be chuckling inside like that is so funny.
That is hilarious.
Just
Yeah.
that type of camaraderie and that type of support for us that I appreciate, and it's unique. It's unique, and I want these Aggie. I want the Aggie Nation to know that I appreciate it. Our players appreciate it, and we're going to give them exactly what they want.
That whole section behind the scores table is
Oh,
very,
Yes, they're
very
very good.
animated. Yes, yes. We've got one guy that claims that somebody's been walking the whole game.
the
The whole game. Now, how you can make that happen, I don't know. You don't have the ball in your hand, but yeah,
Oh, they are great,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
They
yeah.
are great.
It's great stuff.
It was one time. It was one time we're in the game. And I never do this. Like I try never to, but we're in the game, and I called a play, and somebody got the ball that the play wasn't for, and I heard him say, "Yo, man, go take him, take him." And I'm like, and I like turned to him like, "Whoa, whoa!" So then the ball swung to, I think it was actually Landon. The ball swung to, and Landon steps up and makes the jump shot. And I wanted to turn around and say, "Yo, see, we got a plan here. We got a plan. Helter skelter here." But they are great. They are so funny.
Yeah, yeah, great fan base, man. And we it's a comedy show, man. We just sit there. It's great stuff. You didn't have a whole lot of maybe control of your scheduling this year, but in terms of going forward, the schedule you had this year, is it kind of what you wanted? Two ACC teams, an ATN team, that type of thing, or would you want to throw in a D3 here or there just to make sure the engine's working correctly?
Well, I think we are going to throw in a Division II next year. I think we're going to play Cheney, another historically black college, because we were in talks to play them this past year, but we had some circumstances that came up that we weren't able to do it. So we promised them that we would do it this upcoming season. So we are going to play them. We're trying to. What I like to do is we're going to play a couple of those big names. I'm thinking, Wake Forest may be one that we try to play because it's local and that sort of thing. But the other thing that we want to do is we want to try to get Howard on the schedule. We want to try to get Maryland Eastern Shore on the schedule. We want to keep those traditions as well in terms of playing schools from the MEAC that we were associated with. We want to, try to keep those rivalries alive as well, because I know that the fans like that and want that. So we want to make sure that we're in tune to that as well.
No question about it. Warren Mitchell confessed to being the boo guy. So what's up, Warren?
Okay, Warren.
We love
boo
it,
you.
Yeah, we won't boo him. No, we won't boo him.
Oh God!
I think he had a front page article the other day. I think he was on the front page of the News and Record for being the boo guy. So
is that right?
Yeah, I have to check that out. But I think
I didn't see that.
Got a front page article, so it's good, man. It's not a good place to be over there if you're the opponent.
That's right. Thanks, Warren. I appreciate you, man.
All right, Shemai, give us some this or that so we can go out here and eat. It's dinner time.
All right. So, live without music or live without TV?
Oh, live without TV. Could never live without my music.
For sure.
Who you like, Coach? Who you like? Stevie Wonder? You Usher guy like
right now? I have a little list that I go in between, like Maxwell, I'm a big Maxwell guy. I like Usher. And you know who's like growing on me so much, like old schoolish a little bit, is like it's TLC. Uh,
Oh,
digging on me and digging on me, waterfalls, baby, baby, baby.
waterfalls.
No scrubs.
Oh,
Like that little medley that they got going on is and so unpretty. Like they like I can like and my wife gets tired of me like just keep playing that TLC over and over again. But yeah, I'm a Maxwell and Usher. Those are and I'm a big babyface guy, tender lover guy.
All right, okay. Left
sweet.
Eyes Ryan and Waterfalls, all time great.
Yes,
Oh
sir.
yeah,
Yes,
definitely,
All time
definitely.
great run. Yeah, no
Coach, we
question.
got to put you on the ox, cause yeah, I know your playlist
yeah.
is crazy.
There you go.
Yeah. I noticed he didn't say Chris Brown, Shemai.
Oh, that's okay. We're gonna get there. We'll get there.
No, because you know what? Hey, how about this? How about this? And I forget. I think it was Taken. You remember the movie Taken with
Chris Brown, Michael
Chris Brown?
Ealy.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. So watch this. So I'm in a movie. We're watching the movie, and it's like three young ladies sitting in front of me. So remember the scene where Michael, and Chris Brown got killed when they just
Mhm.
walked out of the bar, wherever they were.
Mhm.
Yo, the movie wasn't over. The girls, once they saw Chris Brown got killed, they got up and left. I was like, dang, y'all bugging.
You thought I was bad. You thought
No,
You are bad, but that's worse. You are,
Chris Brown, that's unbelievable. But I tell you what, Chris Brown singing This Christmas,
Mm,
oh,
Chef's kiss.
nothing better than that. Nothing better than that.
don't encourage this.
Did
Coach.
you hear that? You hear that, B?
Don't encourage this. Give us another question, Shemai. Give us another question.
All right. So Facebook or Instagram?
Mm. Can I say neither?
Yeah.
Well, I think Facebook is probably for my generation, but because of recruiting and all that kind of stuff, I have to be more Instagram than I am Facebook.
Positive reinforcement or constructive criticism?
Positive reinforcement.
All-inclusive resort or isolated cabin trip?
Isolated cabin trip.
Would that cabin trip be with somebody named Missy Ross?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Michelle, for joining us. She thanks Aggie Land for welcoming the Ross family. So shout out to Michelle Missy Ross watching us on Facebook Live. What would you call that, Shemai? The boo? Is that what we
That's
call that?
cool, yeah.
Ah.
That's cool.
No question about it. No question
Oh
about
boy.
it. Yeah. Give us another one.
Dine in or take it to go?
That's a good one. All depends on if there's something on TV or not. I like to dine in. I like good restaurants, nice restaurants, and that goodness gracious, shout out to Greensboro for all the good restaurants that they have. But on the way home, I don't mind picking up takeout for the wife and I, but we do like to go out and dine in sometimes. So I'm really on the fence with that one, right?
I got one for you. Stephen A. or Shannon Sharp, man.
Oh, come on, man. That ain't even no question. That ain't even no question. I got to go with my bro. My bro, Stephen A.
No
Got to
question.
go with him.
Stephen A. was in the building this season, North Carolina Central,
Yes.
December 12th. And so that was outstanding. And got a chance to interview him. And I think that was great for both teams to be able to see him and be able to see an HBCU graduate doing that well. That's to be very encouraging to.
So you
guys.
talk about doing that well. So, and I'm not trying to put his business out there or anything, but he called me and he said, "Ma, what's your biggest game?" And I said, and I was new. It was probably in August or something that he called, maybe September. I said, probably excitement and all that stuff, probably be North Carolina Central in the non-conference. He said, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm getting a plane and I'm getting all of our teammates that I can, all of our boys, and we coming down. And lo and behold, he got a plane. private plane, and he got all those guys, and they came down, and it was so good to see all those guys. But that's just a little peek behind the scenes of Stephen A. in terms of how loyal he is to his, close knit circle. He's just a loyal guy, and he has that stick on television, but he's just a warm-hearted, do anything for you type of guy. Like you'll see him on First Take, and he'll say something or whatever, and sometimes he'll look down and he's texting or whatever. If any of us text him during the show, he'll text us right back. And it could be something crazy like, "Yo, man, why you just say that, man? That ain't make no sense." That guy is so ugly, and he'll text back and everything. So definitely Stephen A. all day. That's my guy.
No question. Shout out to Stephen A. No question about that. Give us another one, Shemaya.
Board games or card games?
Card games. Bid whist, spades.
I was about to say you run spades.
Yeah, bid whist, spades, and tongue, and pinochle. I can play some pinochle too.
Yeah. You went to HBCU in the 90s. You played spades.
Yeah, absolutely.
You played spades a lot too.
Absolutely.
It was a class.
Every day after class, and spades as well. Every day after class.
Yeah. I couldn't have worked for A&T Athletics as a college kid because I would have been betting, because we betted on tunk all the time. Yeah, $1 a hand. Yeah,
absolutely. Yes, we did.
Yeah. No question. Close us out, Shemaya.
Living in the moment or planning for the future.
Ooh. At this age, it's living in the moment. 20 years ago, it was planning for the future. But right now, I'm living in the moment, trying to be where my feet are.
No question about it. Coach Ross, Spencer Turkin gave us a shout out earlier. From me and him, man, it was a pleasure working with you this season. Win or lose, you came out of the locker room quickly, 5-10 minutes tops. You jumped in. I didn't even have to do an introduction. You just already knew the format, and you come in. I mean, it was just it was really, from a professional standpoint, it was really great working with you. And I know he applauds you for being able to come out during the radio session and do that obligation for us. And so I do just want to selfishly just say thank you to you for that on a professional level. And we just look forward to the off season, and looking forward to the future and all the great things that are going to happen in North Carolina A&T basketball.
No, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. And I love Aggie Nation. I love Greensboro. I love being here. And you can't always say that, but I truly, truly have fallen in love with this place. And that's what really, really, really makes me want to get this thing back to where everybody would fall in love with it as well.
No question about it. Big week coming up for Aggie Athletics. Got baseball here this weekend. Women's basketball going for a CAA title. So hoping Coach Rob and those guys can be able to get it done. And softball this weekend. So congratulations to the bowling team, qualified for nationals. Got 3 young ladies qualified for nationals as well. So things are going well here in Aggie land, and looking forward to spring ball starting up this week. So make sure you be a part of that. And so many things. We're going to try to bring on Shamika next time to talk about the new ticketing format with North Carolina A&T football. Has some technical difficulties with that, but we look forward to seeing you on the next Aggie Pridecast. Coach Ross, thank you so much. And happy good time on the recruiting trails for you guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Right.